Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Tyler Pyron here from 5 Tool Productions. Thank you for tuning into the Create Smarter show. We've got a good one lined up for you today, and you really actually haven't heard from us in quite some time. Just when it comes to Create Smarter. We've been very active on social because we've been posting a lot of behind the scenes type footage. And well, that's kind of what we want to get started with today is exactly that. And the reason for it is because we have been absolutely crazy the last, call it 30 to 45 days, to be completely honest with you. We've had commencements, reunions, just panel discussions, regular videos, you name it. We've pretty much done them all over the course of the last, like I said, 30 to 45 days, especially this last week. Starting last Tuesday, a little more than a week ago, we had one client live stream for a nonprofit. Friday, another nonprofit live stream. And then on Saturday, commencement. Sunday, 2 commencements. And again, yesterday, we had another all hands company meeting live stream mixed in with a lot of other pre-produced content that we were doing for other clients as well. So very busy couple of weeks. But with that in mind, we wanted to kind of give you a little behind the scenes look at what went into some of those shoots, as a few of them were pre-recorded content mixed in with a little bit of live. And we actually had to mobilize 2 teams on location just one random Friday. So far this year. It's been interesting to say the least, but we're coming to the breathing room now, which is nice. But without further ado, let's take a look at what it was like on location with having 2 teams, 2 different places at the same time. What's up, everybody? Tyler from 5 Tool Productions. We are in Chelsea today with our client Roka. Cool shoot. They've got a live event coming up in a couple of weeks, and this is a shoot 1 of 2. We're going to be on site 2 different days to get a few different sets of speakers. We're going to be leveraging one of their big conference rooms as well as one of their teaching spaces, actually. They are going to just do a lot of different remarks. Should be a good day. We're just going to be hustling back and forth, and then day 2, a lot of the same. What's up, everybody? It's Tyler from 5 Tool Productions. Very, very busy Friday. We've got 2 different teams at 2 different locations. I'm on one team going one place, Tufts University. We're actually going to be recording a lot of pre-recorded remarks for a commencement, one of their many commencement ceremonies. And then Connor and Marissa, which you'll see right next to me.
Hey guys, Connor from 5 Tool Productions here. Today Marissa and I are in Chelsea this morning. We're at Roka once again. We're doing a little 2-camera shoot, filming some remarks. As you can see, we got some seamless paper, and we're also using a teleprompter, which is pretty cool. And while we're doing this, our friends Tyler and Josh are also in Boston. They're filming for one of the Tufts commencements. We're doing two shoots in one day. We're just gonna show you what we get up to today. It should be fun.
That right there is a wrap. Very busy day, lots of recordings, some downtime. We got a good lunch too in the middle of it all. We didn't get to show you that part, but that's because we devoured it literally within 5 minutes. But good day heading into the weekend. A lot of fun. Those live streams should be pretty good coming up at the end of the month. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Very good shoot. Good, went well. Very cool. Good people. Great organization. Loved it. Great time. Connor, 5 Tool, signing out.
He was not signing out just for that video. He's going to be back on the show in just a few minutes. We're going to bring Connor in, not to talk about the shoot in Chelsea with quite a bit of construction going on around them, as you could tell, but the news articles, and that's really where we want to go right now. So that's just a kind of a look at what we've been doing over the course of the last couple of months, and that's one of the things that we actually want to mention we are going to be starting to do is putting together kind of a monthly recap of some of the content that we are working on, just so you can see a behind the scenes look of what kind of goes into a full month here at Five Tool Productions. But without further ado, we want to get into the news segment. So you may have remembered from last segment from our last episode of Create Smarter, we switched things up a little bit as it kind of came to the news. We used to be able to just sit here and me kind of rattle off for paragraph after paragraph after paragraph about different topics. Well, I got tired of doing that, and we got tired of putting those together, and people kind of honestly got tired of listening to my voice. I don't blame you one single bit. So what we're doing now is actually just taking some of those headlines, breaking them down a little bit more to see what other folks on the team have to say about some of those kind of headlines that are making the news right now. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and start talking about virtual events. Big surprise there, right? And when we're talking about virtual events, first thing that comes to everybody's mind right now is Zoom. Now, we use Zoom a little bit differently than other folks would. We use it as a way to bring people onto a kind of our production atmosphere itself. And sometimes we actually do produce into a Zoom atmosphere. And what I mean by that is we can leverage them for green rooms and breakout rooms and things like that to kind of help coax people along and also have, like I said, a green room for people to be quiet in. But one thing that Zoom is trying to do now is dip their toes into the virtual event space a little bit more than just kind of their traditional meetings and webinars. They're rolling out Zoom events. Now, here to talk a little bit more about Zoom events, we're going to bring in Josh Artman, who has been studying up on Zoom events itself. And Josh, it's kind of cool, pretty interesting. Give me some of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on the show. I'm rocking a couple different pairs of headphones here because I think this should work. I think this sounds good. Who knows? But yeah, Zoom events, pretty interesting kind of rebranding of sorts for Zoom's sort of event suite. It used to be called On Zoom, and it was kind of more of a small business facing platform. Zoom, we love it, but it kind of became a consumer-facing brand. But before all that, before the pandemic, it was really just kind of an enterprise software. So Zoom Events, Tyler, it's going to be kind of taking that on Zoom small business and bringing it on to a kind of bigger, beefier virtual event space package. And I know with a lot of what we've been doing, we've been looking at different event space hosts. And it's always good to have, more companies, more partners, but it would be pretty interesting for us if we're able to do that all in Zoom, right?
Yeah, what's interesting is that I kind of look at it and I say, I think I know what's happening right now, Josh. I think my microphone is going through your headphones as you are into the other microphone. I'm just realizing what's taking place as I talk right now, which is totally fine to say the least. But one of the things that I do think is interesting is Zoom has almost become a verb in its own right, or a noun. Completely, like I'm going to go jump on Zoom. We're going to Zoom somebody. Much like Kleenex is another term for tissues, right? It's become, everybody kind of understands when you say I'm jumping on Zoom, you know exactly what you mean. It might not necessarily be Zoom. You're jumping on some sort of virtual event platform or virtual call, I should say. What I do find interesting, I was just, while you were talking, looking at stocks from last year around this time. And, at the beginning of the pandemic, or right around the, end of May timeframe, stock was right around $180 a share. Fast forward to kind of October, where basically school went back into session, right? A lot of the virtual learning kind of took place, jumped up all the way to right around $500 per share. And it's obviously since then dropped back down, but it is leveled out right around 326 bucks a share. So for them, they're looking at other ways that they can try to grow. Now, there are obviously so many other players in the marketplace, and they're popping up day by day. And we look at every single one of them, and they're trying to find ways to diversify themselves. And what's interesting with Zoom, they're also adding a way that they can charge for events too. So one of the ways that they can try to make money off of Zoom is not just by the subscription fee, but by people saying we're going to charge for $30 for an event. Well, Zoom's going to get a little bit of a cut of that as well, because from the processing fees. So they're trying to make money outside of just saying everybody's on Zoom for a subscription. well, people dropped off obviously and going to other platforms, but they still want to try to find other ways to make money too. So it's interesting, but I do think we'll probably obviously test it out and see how it works, won't we?
Definitely. And I mean, sort of, I like what you were saying there about finding more ways for Zoom to monetize their platform, because obviously everyone's on or maybe getting off or maybe getting bored of their platform. But the people who Zoom, the people and businesses who use Zoom now as their backbone, gotta find a way to squeeze some more dollars out of them. So totally understand.
Always have to squeeze more money when you possibly can, and that's where we're going to go for our next topic. So Josh, thank you as always. I appreciate it. I know you're going to be busy switching in the background, so thank you, sir. I'm sure we'll talk to you in a bit.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
Very cool. All right. So speaking of squeezing, every last penny out, and especially when it comes to stock prices, you always have to take a look at Twitter. And they've been trying to do some very interesting things over the course of time. They've added live video natively. They've gotten rid of kind of their other streaming partners that they've brought on board. But right now they're launching something that, well, people aren't exactly too happy about, and that's Twitter Blue. And you might say, well, is this that cool of a thing? Well, I mean, I personally don't think so. Maybe I almost called her our correspondent. But I guess Marissa Yaleski is our correspondent for this news topic right now. Marissa, welcome into the show. Thank you so much for joining us. So tell me, what is Twitter Blue? I mean, I just can't help but laugh at it, honestly.
I really know what Twitter Blue is, but it's a subscription service that you're going to have to pay, I believe, $2.99 a month for. And it kind of cleans up some of the ads on your feed and allows you to undo tweets and save collections and bookmark things, and I don't know that it's necessarily worth paying for. It doesn't seem like it's a very interesting difference. I know Twitter's going to make money off of it, of course, that's their goal, but I don't know if that's going to change much on the user side of things on the end. What do you think about it?
Right, you could find that in your couch. I mean, I think we've got it down here right now. It's the price of a cup of coffee, obviously, right? And it depends on where you're going for coffee. For us, go across the street to Starbucks, it might even be less than a cup of coffee a month, right? But at the end of the day, honestly, when I look at this and I say, I don't really know how many people are going to be joining on top of this. I mean, I look at it when I'm on Twitter. I'll be the first person to admit, I am not on Twitter all that much. I go on every once in a while, more often than not, for events, sporting events, political events, to see what people are saying about different things. But as far as a daily user, I'm definitely not the person that's going to be investing in something like this. But I will say this. From a business perspective, it seems like a way to get some sort of cash influx, to kind of pad the books in a sense. I have a feeling that it's like a lot of things that Twitter has done over the course of time. They're going to roll it out, see how it works. If it's $3 a month, they're going to get a big push of cash in their bank account, and that will allow them to do other things. But I have a feeling this might be one of those things that people just aren't going to use because, like you said, it doesn't really seem like they're offering that many new cool things outside of the ads, which most people could tell which ones they are, especially our power users, the people that are probably going to be buying Twitter Blue, know what they are and aren't clicking on them to begin with. And two, they probably are going to be saying the undo button, why not just use delete? I mean, it kind of reminds me of I say back in my day, and I'm going to use that same term again when Connor comes on, but I feel like it reminds me of when everybody had the AOL account. You could actually unsend an email. Now it's, you recall an email. It really doesn't do anything. It just sends and draws more attention to said email. It doesn't work. So I don't totally understand the reasoning for it. It seems kind of silly. So will you be signing up for it?
I will not be, and I use Twitter fairly often. I get my news from there. I'm a big sports person, get my sports news from there, find some funny content on there, but I don't think, like you were saying, I don't personally tweet a lot, so the undo tweet button doesn't do me any good. And I don't really notice the ads on Twitter. I just keep scrolling, and it just kind of fades in with everything else. So I will not be investing in Twitter Blue, but we'll see how it goes.
One of us will have to just fork over the $3 for a couple of months just to see how it works, right? I guess that's the way it'll go. All right. Good stuff. Marissa, thank you as always. I'm sure we'll catch up with you next time for sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
So big thank you to Mariska Yaleski for taking time out to jump on the show with us, talk about Twitter Blue. Yeah, it's really interesting as what's going to be taking place with Twitter itself. I'm not 100% sure if it's something that folks will really be diving into really all that much, to be completely honest with you, but we will see. And I mentioned what I said right off the top is that, yep, I remember back in my day what was happening, and one of the things that was happening was MTV, and I used to love MTV. Basically every Sunday morning I would watch the top countdown and see who would be coming on top, right? It was Bill Bellamy, it was Daisy Fuentes, and those were kind of the influencers, if you will. They were just the VJs that were thrown to videos here and there. But people have always complained MTV has kind of done away with that. They're not doing that. They've just gone all reality trash TV. I was one of them. I loved all my music videos. However, with that in mind, there are new ways of doing that. YouTube has become one of the biggest players as it pertains to music, and watching some of those kind of music videos live. And then enter TikTok. Obviously, TikTok, if you are on it at all, they're huge as it pertains to music. But with that in mind, they haven't really been playing too many music videos straight up or just standard music clips throughout the entire time. And, influencers will have them in the background, but there really isn't all that much as it pertains to having a true music show where you can see and find new music itself. Until now. And more often than not, people are actually starting to look to and turn to some of those influencers to see what's the latest and greatest trends out there. Well, here to talk a little bit more about that and some other interesting partnerships out there, we welcome in Connor Clarity, Five Tool as well. Everybody's part of Five Tool Productions, obviously. So, Connor, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you jumping in and making the switch with Marissa. So, anybody that may have heard kind of that microphone rustling in the background, that was Connor and Marissa doing a very quick switch when it comes to the microphone. So, Connor, thanks for coming on. Tell me about the partnership. That's what's going on with TikTok, specifically with SiriusXM.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Tao. It's always a pleasure to be here. It kind of came as a surprise when I saw this article that SiriusXM, the satellite radio company, also parent company to Pandora, if you remember what that is, and TikTok, the social media app, are partnering for a couple different events and different things on each other's platforms. So SiriusXM is now having a TikTok Hits channel dedicated to songs that are trending on TikTok. That are actually presented by TikTok influencers themselves. And over on their Pandora side of things, they have TikTok creators will have their own playlists of either their favorite songs and also of TikTok trending songs as well. So it's very interesting. It's a kind of weird move, I think, from each side. It's good for Sirius to get a younger audience onto their platform, and both Pandora and satellite radio of all things. And good for TikTok just to get out there and is also streaming Pandora live shows, I believe. So very interesting from both sides, but I can see the pros and cons.
Well, it is interesting. I feel like this episode of Create Smarter today, we're talking a lot about from a revenue perspective. And for them, TikTok, it's not just bringing in traditional advertisers, they're bringing in networks to try to go ahead and promote more content and bring more content in, and partners for content providers, which is really cool. And we're seeing a lot of that, kind of that cross promotion. What I do find really interesting is just the average consumer, right? You mentioned it right there. The average consumer on TikTok is going to be much younger in age for obvious reasons. I mean, I've been on it every once in a while. I'll see something, but it's very seldom, to be totally honest with you. And that makes me old. I get it. I understand that. But with that in mind, I will say what's pretty cool about it is the fact that they're now trying to merge the two worlds together. An older platform, which is kind of crazy to think of Sirius as an older platform now, but it is. They're an older audience because it comes with everybody's new car now, right? But the younger audience saying, well, yeah, we can go ahead and try to showcase what some of the latest and greatest trends are out there. And they're basically, do you know, and you might not know this or not, I mean, it's tough to tell by just a handful of articles, but is it kind of one creator that's going to be, I say Bill Bellamy because he was my VJ when I was a kid, but is there one influencer, or is it going to be kind of a series of influencers that are going to be kind of leveraging the almost playing their own playlist?
Well, from what I can understand by reading the articles, right now only the Pandora part of it has released, actually. They're waiting till summer really kicks off for the SiriusXM channel to premiere. But from what I can assume, the TikTok influencers, if they have the blue check next to their account or whatever criteria that may involve, I think they have a couple. So right now, they have, her name's Bella Porch. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure she's famous in somebody's eyes. She has her own playlist on Pandora at the moment, along with two other creators, and I'm sure they'll be rolling out more as the summer continues. So it's kind of interesting to see, who is chosen and what the criteria is to make you a TikTok influencer, taste maker, as they call them on SiriusXM. and kind of why they were chosen from the rest of the TikTok creators. So it'll be interesting to see who comes and if anybody knows who they are, really, in the end of the day.
Oh, well, someone must know who they are, and quite a few apparently do, because I was looking at some of her numbers, and she has literally millions of followers out there. And I know, obviously, TikTok followers kind of come and go like the wind, but I will say this: she seems to have a cult-like following, and I think it's definitely a good way to spread the word. It'll be interesting to see if she will act like a kind of a true radio DJ, which you were at one point in time, I know, and be able to say, yeah, go ahead, bribe me, and I'll play your song for you. So we'll see if that works. Might be a good way to get out there. Connor, good stuff as always. We'll definitely catch up with you soon.
All right. See you later, Tyler. Good to see you.
Cool. Thank you to Connor, Marissa, and Josh for taking time out to talk about some of the news segments. We are going to take a quick break, but as we take this break right now, it is going to be just a really cool look at some of the things we've been doing here at Five Tool and some of the things that we do actually work on for our clients. And when we come back, we have an awesome interview lined up all about virtual events. Today's show is really geared to and talks all about virtual events. We're going to be talking with Kat Lozelle of CIC in just a few minutes about, this whole hybrid thing that's going on right now. So we'll be right back with Kat, but take a look at what we're doing for some of our clients right now. Awesome. Yeah, so it's really interesting right now. And the reason why we want to show that video in particular leading into Kat's segment is for a couple of reasons. One, we talk all about virtual events. Two, we talk about in-person kind of content. And that's what's happening right now as the world kind of opens up, and we're here in Massachusetts. So it's really just a couple of days before kind of mask mandates end and people can now be in public. And we're seeing Fenway Park have no restrictions as it pertains to the amount of people that can be in the crowd. And what about event venues? So that's the one thing we've heard of a lot. People love the fact from a virtual side of things that they can reach a broader audience. But there's nothing that can compare to having an in-person event, kind of the excitement that takes place, the networking that goes on as well. So with that in mind, we wanted to bring in Kat Lozelle of CIC and to talk about a little bit more about what CIC does, but also just to talk about the future of events and what kind of hybrid events really look like. So with that in mind, I welcome in Kat. I missed you. I haven't seen you in a little while, so it's good to see you and hear your voice. Hopefully I can hear you coming through as well. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you so much for having me. Great to see you.
Of course. It's always great to see you, of course. I feel like Kat and I, so everybody knows we worked together on an event about 3 weeks ago, give or take.
It feels like a lifetime, but yeah, I think it was maybe a month or so.
It's gross how fast time goes by right now, but it all works. So first and foremost, give us a little, for the folks that don't, right now, I feel like CIC has been all over the place, but for the folks that don't understand like what CIC is, just give us kind of the elevator pitch if you could.
Yeah, can do. So CIC stands for the Cambridge Innovation Center, and we provide flexible office space to innovators and entrepreneurs in Massachusetts. This is our original site, but we have sites all across the US and internationally as well, opening up in Tokyo last October. That's our most recent site. So my role is to help support our members in Massachusetts in planning events in our spaces. We have a couple of different event spaces in our buildings in Cambridge and Boston. So obviously there was a big shift when the pandemic happened. Everyone went virtual, which is something that some of our hosts had been doing previously, but a lot of people had really tentatively been dipping their toe in the water of virtual events. And then overnight, everything kind of shifted, as we all know. So it was really, it was a catalyst the pandemic was a catalyst for virtual events, I think. specifically, I mean, definitely for our hosts, but I think in general, we all got a crash course in, like you were saying, in Zoom and how to host things on Zoom and what translates well virtually and what doesn't. So now that restrictions are opening back up, we're seeing a lot of folks who want to maintain that virtual element. I think that's the trend. I think most, if not all, events going forward are going to have some kind of a virtual component, which is great. We learned that, like you said, virtual events are so much more accessible to people. For somebody who's budget conscious, you don't have to worry about like catering and things like that. There's a lot of pros to virtual events, but there's also some challenges. And I think with hybrid events too, that is its own thing. It's not just a virtual or an in-person event with a virtual component. You have to kind of reframe the way that you're thinking about how to plan your event.
Yeah, it's funny. I think, I remember for us, we've been live streaming for a while now, and it was interesting to see kind of the pivot as a whole over the course of the last, however long it's been now, talking about time having no meaning anymore, right? But I will say that the old way I feel like events used to be, it would be, a person on a stage having kind of a conversation with the audience in person, and then they would just kind of have a camera in the back of the room filming the person on stage, and it would miss some of the excitement. It really wasn't a great experience. So things are obviously going to be changing, and it, like you said, it forced the issue with virtual events, and now I feel like it's almost forcing the issue for, you use the term hybrid, right? Like hybrid is really the word people are using now. So what are some of the questions that kind of your hosts are asking you? What are some of the things that they're asking? Like, how do I do this? I'm just kind of curious. What are kind of the FAQs that people are kind of wondering about right now that you're hearing specifically?
Yeah, such a good question. I think the big one that we're seeing pop up is how do I encourage participation that's equitable for both an in-person and remote audience? It's super tricky. And I think
it really is.
The people who are in person together, they have the luxury of being able to raise a hand or call out, but that can often be at the expense of the remote audience. So you need to make sure that you're catering to both audiences, that it's however people are participating, that those ground rules are set early and they know how to participate, and everyone has a voice in it, whether they're on site or not. So I think that's probably one of the big ones popping up.
Yeah, and it's funny. It was really funny, actually, after we ran the event, you and I did this exact same thing, just rolled reverse a little bit, right? The one thing, I did get an email right after from somebody, and they were asking about small, super small specific events, like almost more like a meeting type than it was a true event, where it was like, not necessarily a cocktail mixer or people had a stage. It was, no, I do like a 2 or 3 person in person, and I love to have like 1 or 2 people that were virtual. That can almost be like a meeting in a sense, right? You could leverage some tools kind of at your disposal, like a Zoom, for something like that, which, I know, I think you even emailed after about conference room setups for people just having like a two-way conversation, right? It really depends on kind of the size of the event too. If it's super small, you can leverage some of the things at your hand, or if it's huge, those are a little more challenging, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we all got used to Zoom on our individual laptops, and then figuring out the right technology to use is for something where you have 10 people participating in a room together or 50 or 100. That is something completely different, and a whole set of new issues that come along with, and issues and opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you said it right. Like it forces the issue. Right? Like it forces us to think a little bit more creatively and be a little bit more nimble, as opposed to, I remember, our traditional event, you could say, well, here's your video screen, here's your microphone, talk into the microphone, we've got a laptop if you want slides, and that was kind of it, right? And you could have some fun things, to dress up the room, but now you're dressing it up virtually and in the room too, right? So with that in mind, what do you feel like people are starting to put more emphasis on? Are they trying to, cater to the audience in the room, or cater to the audience at home? Or is it truly, like you said, just a mix of both, and they're trying to do both of them the right way?
Yeah, I think people are trying to be mindful of both audiences, at least what I'm seeing, because I'm working with a lot of in-person meetings and events. Yeah. There's definitely kind of a rush to get back to in-person meeting spaces, and people really want to be able to gather together in person and have it feel safe. So there's we're kind of refiguring like what does safe look like in this new atmosphere. But I think there are definitely some questions about which audience do I play to? Who do I format this event for? And I personally find it really helpful to think virtual first. I think that it can be really easy to focus on the in-person audience because it feels it feels really immediate, but virtual events we learned have different rhythms. They tend to be shorter. We saw a lot more. We used to host a lot of events after hours, and all of those, for the most part, shifted to be during the day. People have a different appetite for virtual events, I think, once the end of the workday rolls around.
And
so
it depends on the audience too, right? Like some,
exactly, yeah.
Some audiences, like them at the end of the day, and we say exact same thing. We've seen some people want them in the middle of the day and say, nope. You do anything after 5 o'clock, I'm home with family. I want nothing to do with my computer anymore, right?
Right. So I think, for example, like training sessions that used to be 8 hours in person became maybe 3 or 4 hours virtually. So if you're thinking about how to plan a hybrid workshop or a hybrid training, I would still probably opt for the shorter session because you will have some people joining remotely and they have a different appetite for or attention span for virtual events than the folks who are meeting in person would. And the in-person group probably won't mind a shorter meeting either.
That's one thing I was just going to say. I actually think the in-person kind of meeting, people might actually appreciate me. I've been to plenty of 2-3 day full-blown conferences, and you're just exhausted at the end of the day. And that is just one of those miserable things to do. So I think that will kind of shift things. So let me ask you this before I let you go, because I don't want to keep you too long, because I know you're slammed. But when people walk up to you and say, all right, hey, I want to plan an event. What's kind of your advice to them? Where should they start? I mean, I know you mentioned start thinking about virtual before in person, but what is some of the advice or questions that you ask them to kind of get their mind going and rolling?
Such a good question. I think what I found to be really helpful is asking people early on what their goals are for an event. Who are they trying to engage? What do they want to get out of it? Because I think a lot of times people, especially if they're not necessarily seasoned event planners, will start out trying to create a vision for an event without thinking about necessarily why they're doing what they're doing. And we have so many learning lessons that we've gathered over the last year of like what works well and what doesn't. So I encourage them to start with the goals and then let it take shape from there and work with your event planner.
Give Kat a call. Give Kat a call. She'll take care of you. Exactly. So with that, Kat, where do you, give you a shout out. Where should people find out more if they want to, get in touch with you? They want to learn more about CIC and hosting an event at CIC very safely. Yeah. How do they do so?
Yeah, I would say starting with CIC.com, that's our landing page. You can find out where your closest CIC is. And we have specialized events teams that can help you book space through us. We also have a number of flexible work options as people start returning to the office. So I would encourage you to start at CIC.com. And if you have any questions, you can also reach out to me, Lazell, Lazell at CIC. Yeah, that's my last name, at CIC.com as well. So please do reach out.
You and I have the exact same thing where it's like, it's spelt the way it sounds, but you still have to actually spell it out for everybody. I have to do it all the time. Awesome. Kat, it's a pleasure as always. I can't say thank you enough. And I don't know, we'll just have to make this a reoccurring segment, I feel like, with you and me. It works.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Kat. So she is Kat Lazell. Tyler Pyburn. For all the folks here at 5 Tool Productions, we want to say thank you so much for tuning in and joining us on this very kind of hot and sticky Wednesday out there. Hopefully you're inside or by the pool. Maybe your pool's open up right now. So that'll do it for us today. Have a wonderful Wednesday and the rest of the week, and we'll see you right here on Create Smarter next time. Take care.
Thanks, guys.